Hi, I'm Kassidy Washta.
And I'm Cale Newton. Tonight we will recap an epic Oregon Twilight meet, talk about the upcoming softball postseason, talk a little baseball, and we have some big news for both basketball teams.
All that and more coming up right now. Welcome back to Duck TV Sports. I'm Kassidy Washta.
And I'm Cale Newton.
We have a lot of sporting news for you today, so let's get to it.
First off, we'll take you to the hardwood to commemorate one of the brightest stars on the women's basketball team, Jillian Eileen. It appears she is now receiving accolades befitting of her skill. Eileen recently was invited to try out for the women's national team ahead of the Pan American and World University Games. The trials will begin on the 14th, and the 12-person rosters will be announced on the 17th.
But the women's basketball team isn't the only hardwood team with big news, as the men's basketball team has secured transfer guard Dylan Ennis from Villanova. After a month-long battle with Baylor and Illinois, the Ducks add this former Villanova player to the team's roster. Ennis averaged 9.9 points and 3.7 rebounds per game, with a shooting average of over 40% last season. Since Joe Young is graduating in the spring, the Ducks will have an open spot for a point guard for the team's #1 spot on the depth chart. Since Ennis is already a college graduate, he will be eligible to play come next season.
Now moving to the Oregon Twilight meet. This has long been one of the most exciting meets of the season. This year it was a story of past, present, and future Duck stars at Hayward Field. A whole slew of Duck alums dominated the competition. Mac Fleet won the 1,000 meters, Matthew Centrowitz and Andrew Weeding went 1-2 in the 800 meters, while Samantha Murphy won the women's 8. The highlight of the night, however, came with the final event, the men's mile. Eric Jenkins and Will Gohegan went 1-2, and following them was history and the future. Oregon signee Matthew Maton became just the 6th high schooler ever to break 4 minutes in the mile with a 3:59.38. That's the 3rd fastest ever by a high school athlete. In a meet of world-class athletes and Olympians, this young man completely stole the show. Absolutely incredible. Next up, the Ducks will travel to Drake Stadium in Southern California for the Pac-12 championships on May 16th and 17th.
And heading to the mound, the Lady Ducks are currently ranked #1 in the Pac-12. One of the team's most valuable players, junior pitcher Sheridan Hawkins, has played a big role in the team's success this year. The left-handed pitcher threw her 10th shutout of her career on Thursday and has been named as a finalist for the USA Softball Player of the Year award. She is ranked #8 in the NCAA among pitchers with an ERA of 1.18. She has held her opponents to a batting average of .133 and is second in the nation, allowing only 3.18 hits per 7 innings. She has quite the stat sheet, throwing 207 strikeouts in 154 innings pitched.
And speaking of Hawkins, the Ducks will look to improve upon last year's postseason result and take the national title. So Kassidy, do you think that the Ducks have a shot to go all the way this year?
Well, Cale, the Ducks are flying high this season, and the team has clinched their 3rd straight Pac-12 title. With star players like Sheridan Hawkins and Janie Takeda playing their hearts out this season, the team is unstoppable. But in order to make it to the title, they must play consistent.
That's fair, and that's all very true, but you didn't really answer my question. Give it to me straight, Cass. Do you think that they can win the series?
Well, with the Ducks hitting and pitching well, I believe they can make it to the National Championship Series. But as I mentioned before, consistency is key.
All right, I'll give you that. And we'll hand it to Andrew Murray now for a preview of the Lady Ducks postseason.
Dominant, historic, triumphant. Those are just a few words to describe the 2015 season for the Oregon Ducks softball team. Having won their 3rd straight Pac-12 title, the Ducks will now host the Eugene Regional as the #2 overall seed in the field. They will host North Dakota State, Fresno State, and BYU, who is coming to Eugene for the 3rd time in 4 years. Sheridan Hawkins, Janie Takeda, and Jenna Lilly are just a few of the stars that have put together an impressive regular season, to the point where winning is contagious and expectations are constantly surpassed. A few numbers in a season of milestones and broken records. 19 of the team's 46 wins were run rule victories, 10 of those coming against top 25 opponents. 3 straight Pac-12 titles after not winning any in the program's first 39 years of existence, and Sheridan Hawkins has tossed 3 no-hitters this year alone. but it almost becomes a moot point if the team doesn't reach the College World Series, and you could even argue that just getting there isn't good enough for these Lady Ducks. This team is not without its weaknesses. Behind Hawkins lies a rotating second starting spot that has had its ups and downs regardless of who has started in the role. Jerry Ann Glasgow, Carissa Hovingay, and Jasmine Smithson-Willett are all arms that head coach Mike White can use. It's just a matter of how he uses them. In the long list of goals that the Ducks set themselves before the season even started, they've accomplished so much that 3 months in already. And now the Ducks look to check a few more of those boxes off on the list. The last one being a national championship, the first in program history. For Duck TV Sports, I'm Andrew Murray. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Andrew. While the softball team prepares for a championship run, baseball is fighting to stay alive in the postseason race. The Ducks face the Washington State Cougars following back-to-back series wins.
Oregon won its third straight series against the Cougars over the weekend, with Mitchell Tolman becoming the new all-time leader for RBIs. The Ducks are 11-13 in conference play with a 29-22 overall record. Typically, a team needs to hit 35 wins to make it to postseason play, so mathematically, it isn't impossible for the Ducks to make it to postseason since they have 9 games left, but it is very unlikely for the squad to take home 6 wins.
I completely agree. The way this squad has played all year, very inconsistent in pitching and particularly on defensive plays, which is unlike a George Horton squad. I don't see their chances very high going into the postseason.
The Ducks now head to Salt Lake City this weekend to face the Utah Utes. With Oregon grasping for a chance at postseason play, this series is vital to the team. It should be an easy matchup for the Ducks as the Utes' overall record is 16-29. So, Kale, how critical do you think this matchup is for the Ducks?
Well, as we said, it is absolutely critical for the Ducks to capitalize on every possible opportunity to take home valuable wins. They need that valuable 6 to get to 35, like we mentioned. And honestly, although the Utah Utes currently are last in the Pac-12, Stanford, who's 11th in the Pac-12 right now, managed to beat Oregon early in the year. So this might not be an easy matchup. However, what do you think will be the key for the Ducks going into this series?
The key for the Ducks, they need to focus on their pitching. The team has had a few hiccups this season when it comes to the mound, but their bullpen has been vital this season, with pitchers like Josh Graham and Garrett Clevinger pulling through for the Ducks. Now we take it to Stephen Woodworth for this week's game forecast. Take it away, Stephen.
Thanks, guys. There's certainly no shortage of Oregon athletics this upcoming weekend, with 5 sports and some late season action. Oregon baseball leaves the Northwest for the mountains in Salt Lake City, where the team will look to keep its slim postseason hopes alive. The Ducks take on the Utah Utes in a 3-game series. The first game will take place on May 15th, and the series will conclude on May 17th. The Ducks then return to the state of Oregon, taking on in-state I-5 rivals, the Oregon State Beavers, at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 19th in Corvallis. Track and field is entering the final stretch of its impressive season. The Ducks will travel to Los Angeles, where the team will look to make another statement in the Pac-12 championships. The Ducks women's soccer team will be rounding out its 4-game slate with a contest against the Western Oregon University Wolves Saturday, May 16th at Pape Field. Kickoff is set for 4 o'clock p.m. The Oregon softball team wrapped up the season in Tucson, winning the rubber match against the Arizona Wildcats. The Ducks begin postseason play at Howe Field in an NCAA regional on May 15th. The team looks to make the Women's College World Series for the 2nd time in a row. That wraps up the games for this weekend. Guys, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Stephen. That's all for this episode of Duck TV Sports.
Follow us on Twitter at Duck TV Sports for your latest Oregon updates.
And be sure to check out our website for game coverage, articles, and more.
For Kassidy Washta, I'm Kale Newton. Have a beautiful night, Eugene.